Welcome back, deep divers. Get ready, because we are plunging headfirst into part 3 of our journey, decoding the elusive flying disc files from 1947.
That's right.
If you've been with us, you know this isn't just a casual stroll through old news clippings or, secondhand accounts.
Not at all.
This is the raw, unfiltered, stuffed direct excerpts from official FBI documents.
The real deal.
We're talking about original files detailing the very first reports, the eyewitness testimonies pouring in from across the country, and most crucially, the government's initial, often bewildered reactions to these mysterious sightings.
Yeah, you really get a sense of that bewilderment, that uncertainty reading through them.
It's a fascinating, almost voyeuristic look at a pivotal moment in American history, right as the unexplained began to demand official attention.
And that's precisely what makes these documents so uniquely significant. They don't just chronicle events, they mark the true genesis of what we now understand as the modern UFO phenomenon.
Right, the starting point.
Exactly. Before 1947, you had scattered, unexplained occurrences, isolated anomalies, But in that year, something fundamentally shifted.
A real turning point.
We see the clear documented transition from mere public curiosity, maybe some newspaper articles, to a genuine official concern within the highest echelons of government.
Okay.
This is where mystery truly met the military, and perhaps for the first time, secrecy took flight. It kind of laid down a blueprint for how information would be handled for decades to come.
So our mission today?
Our mission today is to meticulously examine what ordinary people claim to see, the wild and sometimes surprisingly mundane explanations they came up with, and how the nascent government response began to shape the narrative around these unprecedented aerial events.
It's history through the lens of the unexplained, seen through the very eyes of those tasked with understanding it.
Precisely.
Okay, let's unpack this and dive straight into those raw, immediate reports from 1947. Imagine you're just going about your day, maybe driving down a quiet road or looking out your window, and something utterly defies your understanding of the sky. What did people actually describe seeing when these objects first appeared?
Yeah, these aren't polished statements. They're the direct, sometimes frantic accounts transcribed straight from the field.
Right.
And that immediacy is what makes them so compelling. One of the earliest detailed accounts paints a very specific and rather baffling picture for the observer.
Okay, what do they see?
The witness stated that when they first sighted this object, it appeared to be about 3 miles away and roughly 2 miles high.
Okay, pretty distant, though.
Yeah, but what's striking is the description of its shape. Definitively elliptical.
Elliptical, got it.
And the observer noted it seemed to take the same course as another widely reported sighting from a different location, suggesting, maybe a consistent, non-random trajectory.
Interesting. Consistent movement.
Critically, and this is a key observational detail, it did not bank or tip as it moved.
No banking, like an airplane would.
Exactly. Which made it incredibly difficult for the observer to judge its thickness or even its true orientation. This absence of conventional aeronautical maneuvers immediately set it apart.
Okay, so that alone is weird.
Definitely. The witness was convinced it was traveling at a much greater speed than a conventional airplane. And remember, for 1947, a conventional airplane was already pushing the envelope of speed for many people.
Right. Jets were still pretty new.
They also noted it was a great deal larger than anything they'd seen before. As for its appearance, described as a bright silver or russet substance, kind of metallic maybe.
Silver or russet.
But this account, right off the bat, it really highlights the inherent challenges of these early reports.
Like what?
Well, judging speed, height, and size from a distance. It was incredibly difficult without known points of reference.
Sure, nothing to compare it to way up there.
Yeah. Exactly. Yet the sense of something unusual, something other, was undeniable. It defied conventional understanding.
That's a strong start with quite a few specifics. Elliptical, fast, non-banking.
Yeah.
But were all the accounts so consistent? I'm wondering if observers, even within the same general time frame, saw the same characteristics or if there was a wide range of interpretations.
That's a really good question. Let's hear another observer's perspective to see if there were commonalities or distinct differences.
Okay.
Moving to a second detailed sighting, this one offers a slightly different but equally compelling narrative. And it demonstrates that immediate human impulse to, rationalize the unknown.
How so?
This observer initially thought what they were seeing was merely a weather balloon.
Okay, that seems reasonable.
Right. At an altitude of about 25,000 feet, traveling northeast to southwest, It was directly to their left when first observed.
Pretty high up.
Yeah. However, as they continued to watch it, their initial assumption was quickly shattered.
Ah, so not a balloon then.
Further observation convinced them it absolutely could not be a balloon due to its extreme speed. They specifically noted it was extremely great, a velocity that simply wasn't possible for a balloon, even at that altitude.
Right, balloons just drift.
Exactly. As the object was watched, it gradually turned, executing a deliberate, controlled maneuver until it was traveling due south.
So it changed direction on its own.
And as it executed this turn, its shape seemed to morph, appearing to change from what was initially an indistinct object to something egg-shaped.
Egg-shaped. First elliptical, now egg-shaped. Interesting.
Yeah, the descriptions vary. The entire sighting was remarkably brief, too. The object disappeared in about 30 seconds.
Wow, that's fast.
So the rapid, deliberate change in direction and the extreme non-balloon-like speed were key factors in dismissing conventional explanations, even for an initial, seemingly benign interpretation like a weather balloon.
It really speaks to the cognitive dissonance these objects must have created. So we have elliptical, then egg-shaped, both moving at incredible, almost unbelievable speeds. It sounds like observers were really struggling to fit what they saw into known categories. What about a third perspective? Maybe from a more casual observer, like someone just going about their daily routine, maybe not even looking for anything unusual.
Good idea. Our third eyewitness account comes from a driver, which offers a unique viewpoint, given their limited ability to just stop and stare at the sky.
Right, you're focused on the road.
This individual stated that when they first saw the object, it was straight ahead of them, traveling directly away from their car as they drove south on N. Williams Avenue.
Okay.
For this witness, the object wasn't a distinct shape at all. It appeared to be just a glare of sun on some object.
Ah, so less defined this time.
Much less defined, which naturally made its actual form or contours indistinguishable. But what was undeniably clear, however, was its altitude and speed.
Okay, what about those?
It appeared very high and was traveling extremely fast. The driver noted it was out of sight after they had traveled only 4 or 5 city blocks, maintaining a speed of about 25 miles per hour.
Gone in 4 or 5 blocks. That's incredibly quick vanishing.
Astonishingly brief period for something to vanish from view. The most telling detail from this account, though, in terms of its unique nature and the challenge of identifying these things, was the witness's frank admission.
What did they say?
They said they had never seen an object at such an extreme height before, and, critically, if the sun had not reflected from it, he could not have seen it at all.
Wow. So maybe lots went unnoticed.
Exactly. This emphasizes how many potential sightings might have gone unnoticed entirely, just relying on specific atmospheric or lighting conditions. It also underscores that even a fleeting, indistinct glare was enough to profoundly impact an observer.
Hearing about reports that are just a glare as sun, it makes me wonder how many sightings might have been dismissed, or worse, never even reported because they were so ambiguous. These early reports really varied wildly in their clarity.
They really did. From detailed descriptions of shape and movement to just a blinding flash in the sky.
So what were the real challenges the FBI faced in sifting through this deluge of information, trying to find the signal in the noise?
That's precisely the struggle these documents lay bare. It speaks volumes about the chaotic and, frankly, often unreliable nature of collecting information in such an unprecedented situation.
How so? What did the documents show?
Well, the FBI documents themselves reveal these challenges on multiple levels. For instance, there's a specific, almost exasperated note in one document about a female informant who apparently rambles on and furnishes no specific information about anything.
Chuckle slightly. Oh, boy. Not helpful.
Not helpful at all. Imagine being an agent in the field, trying to extract credible, actionable data from hundreds of calls like that. You're filtering out genuine, though sometimes vague, observations versus potential hoaxes or simply confused individuals. It reminds us that not every report was credible, even if maybe well-intentioned.
Sure. And the sheer volume must have been overwhelming.
Totally. Beyond individual witness reliability, the sheer volume of incoming calls quickly overwhelmed conventional information channels. The documents highlight this by noting the media's involvement.
The newspapers and radio stations.
Yeah. The assistant city editor of a local newspaper, when questioned by the FBI, stated quite bluntly that they had no record of the identities of the people making the calls about the object.
They weren't keeping track.
It suggests a couple of critical things. First, the rapid-fire nature of calls was so overwhelming coming for news desks, that detailed record keeping was just impossible.
Chaos.
Right. And second, it implies a certain level of public hysteria, or at least widespread chatter, that outpaced traditional journalistic methods of verification. Local law enforcement, often the first point of contact, they lacked any standardized reporting forms or protocols for something like this.
They weren't set up for flying saucers.
Not at all. They were designed for criminal investigations, not aerial anomalies. And then you have the psychological impact on witnesses. Excitement, fear, confusion. Their testimony was often fragmented, emotionally charged, lacking the precise details investigators sought.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So it created this picture of a phenomenon breaking through conventional information channels, making it incredibly difficult for authorities to track, verify, and consolidate initial leads into a coherent understanding. It wasn't just what was seen, it was the chaos of how that information was gathered and processed. There was no established framework.
It sounds like the early investigators were trying to build a jigsaw puzzle without knowing what the final picture was supposed to be,
Yeah,
and with half the pieces missing or, warped.
that's a great analogy.
These were just the initial raw sightings. But soon, as you hinted, people and even the government started trying to make sense of them, leading to some truly wild theories. So with these mysterious objects flying around, this chaotic influx of data, what were the early theories to explain them? Some, as you said, were quite imaginative.
The theories were indeed a fascinating mix. You had international intrigue, technological speculation, quick dismissals. It really reflected the anxieties and maybe the aspirations of the post-war era.
Okay, where do we start?
Let's start with one of the more bizarre rumors, but one that resonated with those underlying geopolitical tensions. The Spanish origin theory?
Spanish origin, like from Spain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This particular tale emerged from a local practicing dentist who told a man during dinner that the saucers reported as seen in various parts of the country were actually from Spain.
Just casually over dinner.
Apparently, but here's where it gets really interesting. The dentist claimed this information had been ascertained by the government in Washington, but that it was not being made known.
Whoa, a government cover-up already.
Essentially, yeah. He was alleging an official cover-up from the very beginning, a conspiracy of silence about foreign, potentially hostile technology, right out of the gate.
Okay, that's bold. Did he have any basis for this?
Well, the dentist further inferred that he had been in Europe and seen conditions over there, lending this sort of veneer of personal experience and international insight to his claim.
Ah, the I've seen things angle.
Right. But what's particularly noteworthy is the FBI documents' immediate concern about how easily this rumor could spread and the perceived credibility of its source.
Who was this dentist?
He was highlighted as an active participant in the Methodist Church and the local Protestant men's club.
So, a respected community figure.
Precisely. The kind of person whose casual dinner conversation could ignite widespread speculation. And the document even points out that a Red Cross representative.
Red Cross, implying a federal connection.
That seems to be the implication, giving it a seemingly authoritative source. This representative was cited by the dentist as having seen one of these objects. The dentist quoted the rep as saying something like, "In justice to myself, I should have corroboration, so I called my houseman who came out and watched it with me for about 10 minutes with his mouth agape."
Wow, even the supposedly official source was stunned.
It shows the raw impact these sightings had. But the FBI explicitly questioned the advisability of an accredited Red Cross representative giving out this information, even off the record.
They were worried about panic.
Clearly, worried about the implications of unsubstantiated claims from seemingly authoritative sources fanning public fear or panic. This indicates an early awareness of the potential for narrative control and the dangers of misinformation.
A secret Spanish air fleet, confirmed by the U.S. government but kept quiet. That's quite a conspiracy theory right out of the gate, especially with the Cold War just starting to form.
It really is.
But the theories weren't just about foreign powers or government cover-ups. There was also this highly detailed explanation that sounds like something straight out of a pulp fiction novel, a blend of science fiction and military ambition. I'm talking about the atomic bomber theory from Chicago. Tell us more about this one. It sounds truly wild.
Oh, this atomic bomber theory, originating from an informant in Chicago, is a masterpiece of early speculative design. It's a fascinating window into the public's imagination grappling with post-war technological leaps.
So what was it supposed to be?
The level of detail is astounding, whether it's true or not. It paints a picture of a truly revolutionary and frankly terrifying weapon. The object was described as a large fuel tank with crystal glass wings.
Crystal glass wings.
Yeah, intriguing, right? Maybe transparent, maybe some novel material. And two large jet engines on both sides. In flight, it resembles a saucer very much, but critically, the wings cannot be seen on a clear day, which explains its disc appearance.
Ah, so invisible wings.
Yeah.
Convenient.
And practical, apparently. This design feature made it a most difficult target for anti-aircraft gunners, a crucial detail speaking to military implications and anxieties.
Makes sense. What was its purpose?
Explicitly stated, to give the ship a long range for atomic bombing. It was merely to carry a bomb of high destruction to enemy country.
Chilling.
Yeah.
Directly tied to the new atomic age.
Absolutely. When it came to propulsion and landing, the description was equally inventive and alarming. No wheels, but small steel rails on the bottom from which they take off, implying some kind of novel launch system.
Like an S-sled.
Maybe. And perhaps the most dramatic detail. Only a few of these craft have been made, and they usually are pitched in the lake or ocean as they cannot be landed.
Disposable atomic bombers. That sounds incredibly expensive and audacious.
Right. Sacrificing the craft for a single mission, it suggests a willingness to go to extreme lengths.
What about performance?
The alleged performance specs were genuinely impressive for 1947. A range of 1,000 miles, a ceiling of 25,000 feet, putting it above most anti-aircraft fire.
Yeah.
And a speed of 750 miles per hour.
750. In 1947, wasn't the sound barrier just about to be broken?
Exactly. The official airspeed record then was around 650 miles per hour. Chuck Yeager wouldn't break the sound barrier until October 47. So 750 mile per hour sustained flight was astonishingly advanced, right at the very cutting edge of what was thought possible.
Incredible specs. Who supposedly built this thing?
The origin story was equally colorful. Allegedly designed by a former skywriter, mechanic, and German World War II ace, a blend of practical aviation and wartime ingenuity.
A real character mix.
And financed by Howard Hughes, millionaire aviation enthusiast.
Of course, Howard Hughes. Adds that layer of mystique and possibility.
Doesn't it? Hughes was already legendary, reclusive, known for pushing aviation boundaries. It supposedly was now being tested by the Glenn Martin Aircraft Company, makers of the Martin Marauder, a real prominent aerospace company.
Grounding it in reality a bit.
And to lend it an air of credibility, the person who supposedly welded the ship was quoted as saying, "It is by far the best long-range bombing instrument he has ever seen."
High praise from the welder.
Apparently. And the name of this fantastic vessel, the Dames.
The Dames, okay.
This entire theory, whether concocted or genuinely believed, it shows a public grappling with technological possibilities way beyond known aviation, and a readiness to attribute these sightings to secret military projects, reflecting that mix of fascination and deep anxiety about new weapons in the early Cold War.
That level of detail is incredible, whether true or not. It paints a picture of a public eager to rationalize the inexplicable, even if it meant imagining an entirely new class of superweapon. But not all sightings were given such elaborate explanations. Some, it seems, were dismissed much more quickly, often with just a simple label, weren't they?
Absolutely. While some theories were highly imaginative, other reports were very quickly dismissed, often categorized as hoaxes or simple misidentifications. This reveals an early government strategy, perhaps.
Which was?
If a conventional explanation, however flimsy, could be applied, it was often used to shut down further inquiry, maybe to avoid escalating public concern or maybe to hide a lack of understanding.
Gotcha. Any examples?
A prime example comes from Alice, Texas. An initial report described a flying disc 12 to 20 feet in diameter, equipped with 2 aerials, and slits or holes indicating jet or rocket propulsion.
Sounds fairly detailed.
It even had a specific marking. No, 65X147 radio printed on it. This detail suggests maybe an attempt to make it appear official or perhaps a sophisticated hoax attempt.
Like a fake license plate.
Kind of. Local radio stations apparently confirmed this report, adding to its initial credibility and public attention. However, the official conclusion from Kelly Air Force Base and the Houston office was swift and decisive. Advised and considered a hoax.
Just hoax. End of story.
Pretty much. No deep investigation mentioned, no detailed analysis presented in that file, just a quick label to dismiss it.
Huh. Any other examples of quick dismissals?
There's another instance hinted at by a reference in the documents to a prior report where an object was erroneously identified as a balloon.
Okay.
The instruction following this reclassification was that no further investigation is to be conducted.
So, once labeled balloon, case closed.
It demonstrates a clear pattern. If an object could be explained away, even if initially misidentified, the official line seemed to be, close the case, move on.
But that quick dismissal, whether accurate or not, probably fueled suspicion, right? That things weren't being looked into properly.
Likely contributed to a growing sense among some in the public that not all sightings were being taken seriously or fully investigated. It also raises questions about how many genuine but initially misidentified sightings simply evaporated from the official record without a deeper look, maybe to manage public perception, maybe just to minimize the official workload.
These documents really capture a pivotal moment, don't they? When the unexplained was actively being cataloged and the groundwork for both official investigation and public fascination was being laid.
They absolutely do.
So the public was seeing these things, coming up with their own explanations, secret Spanish fleets, disposable atomic bombers. But what was the government actually doing behind the scenes? Were they actively investigating, or were they primarily trying to control the narrative? Or, maybe both. What was their strategy?
Both, clearly. And the documents show this fascinating duality in the government's early response. It's a blend of genuine concern and calculated information management.
Okay, tell me about the genuine concern part first, the active investigation.
On one hand, there was undeniable active military involvement and detailed data collection that went far beyond just collecting civilian reports. There's a report from a reliable informant in Chicago considered of good reputation and intelligence by the FBI.
Okay, a credible source.
Yes. He reported an object that definitively didn't resemble any aircraft they had ever seen. But the most compelling detail was that this subject was picked up by radar scope at Williams AFB.
Radar confirmation, that's big.
Huge. It indicates active military monitoring and a technological confirmation of something anomalous in the airspace. Suggests it was a solid object, not just, swam gas or a reflection.
So the military knew something was there. What did they do?
What's fascinating here is the immediate high-level follow-up. A pilot was assigned to the object.
They scrambled a pilot.
Seems so. And this pilot reported traveling 1,200 mph at an estimated 30 to 35,000 feet.
1,200 miles per hour. Again, that speed is just way off the charts for 1947.
Nearly double the then record-holding P-80 Shooting Star. An unprecedented aerial phenomenon. And here's a crucial detail that links directly to one of the most famous incidents of the era.
Oh, what is it?
This pilot was from the 509th Bomb Group, Roswell.
Get out. The Roswell Group, the atomic bomb group.
The very same, the highly secretive unit responsible for the atomic bombing missions, and soon to be at the very center of the most famous UFO incident of all time, in July 1947, the very month these reports were surging.
Wow, that connection is significant.
It really is. And the fact that their pilot, from that base, despite the incredible speed, was unable to intercept the object.
Couldn't catch it, even at 1,200 miles of error.
Apparently not. Which highlights not just the object's performance, but also the military's inability to counter it. That would have been a grave concern.
I'll bet. Did the informant describe the object?
Yes. The Chicago informant described it with remarkable detail for a non-military observer. A constant glow about the color of burning magnesium at the front.
Burning magnesium?
Yeah.
Like intensely bright white.
Sounds like it. With a dark rear, trailing a magnesium trail about 4 feet wide and 3 times the object's length.
A trail behind it.
No visible wings or other support were discernible, and its propulsion, control, and stability were unknown.
Completely alien design, basically.
Seemingly. While it was much faster than any conventional type of aircraft, it was not as fast as a falling star, indicating a controlled flight path rather than a meteor, and notably, there was no sound discernible.
Silent, incredibly fast, glowing, confirmed on radar, and couldn't be intercepted by the top pilots. This isn't just a public sighting anymore.
Not at all. This is military radar confirmation and a failed intercept attempt by a highly capable, top-secret air group. It outlines a profound challenge to national security at the time.
It's absolutely chilling to hear the Roswell name pop up so casually in these early documents, directly linking these disparate sightings to one of the most iconic and debated events in UFO lore, and from the very bomb group that shapes modern warfare. That connection alone is significant.
It certainly stands out.
But okay, beyond direct military encounters and failed intercepts, how was the FBI fielding inquiries from researchers who were trying to make sense of all this? What was the official attitude towards the phenomenon at this critical juncture, especially as academics began to take notice?
Right, so moving towards the information control aspect, the official attitude, as revealed in these files, was largely one of deflection and centralized information control. It was a careful dance between transparency and well, secrecy.
How did that play out?
We see this clearly in an exchange with a graduate student from the University of California. In June 1950, so a few years later, but reflecting the ongoing situation, this student wrote directly to J. Edgar Hoover.
To Hoover himself.
Yes, the FBI director, stating that his dissertation aimed to analyze the sociological and psychological implications of the flying saucer phenomenon.
So academic interest was picking up, looking beyond just the objects themselves.
Exactly. Moving into their impact on society, belief systems. The student noted that other authors hinted at official restraints or censorship regarding the topic, but he personally encountered no such official censorship.
So he felt things were open.
He claimed he was surprised at the openness of responses to his inquiries from other government departments, which might suggest the openness was selective or perhaps carefully managed.
Okay.
He then directly asked Hoover two very pointed questions. If there was any reason why the flying saucer situation should be played down.
Bold question to ask Hoover.
Very. And also, is there any official attitude toward the matter? These were direct challenges to the nascent information policy.
What did Hoover's office say?
The FBI's consistent response to such inquiries, including this one, was basically not our department. They referred them directly and without further comment to the Secretary of National Defense Pentagon in Washington, D.C.
The classic pass the buck. Or centralize the response, maybe?
Precisely. It wasn't an answer. It was a strategically centralized redirection. By pushing all inquiries, even academic ones, to the Pentagon, the FBI essentially washed its hands of the flying saucer issue.
Creating a single choke point for information.
Right. This served multiple purposes. It avoided the FBI validating the phenomenon through active discussion. It allowed the military to control the narrative, and it subtly implied that this was purely a military, perhaps even classified matter.
Thereby discouraging further independent inquiry.
Exactly. And maintaining a tight lid on what was or wasn't known. This deflection, even to academic researchers, subtly reinforced the perception of secrecy surrounding the issue, fostering an environment where official silence often led to public speculation.
That redirection definitely hints at a calculated desire to keep a tight lid on things, or at least to manage the flow of information carefully from a single source. It's a classic move. But what about those truly out-of-the-box theories, like something interfering with our signals that even made their way into these official files? It seems people were willing to consider almost anything at this point.
Exactly. Amidst the military reports and public theories about secret aircraft, there's a fascinating, rather esoteric theory presented in one of the documents about electromagnetic interference. It shows the breadth of public thought.
Electromagnetic interference. How would that relate?
This hypothesis was submitted to the FBI, suggesting that when saucers appear again, have the TV and all broadcasts silenced from the air and check for results.
Turn off all the TVs and radios.
Basically, yes. The individual proposing this, who admitted they couldn't prove it but submitted it as a test suggestion, acknowledged that results may not change immediately, implying maybe a complex, low-acting interaction.
Okay, what's the implication there? What were they thinking?
Well, in 1947, television was still nascent, but radio was king, saturating the airwaves. The idea of turning off all broadcasts to test a theory about flying objects, it speaks to a very early, very fundamental questioning of the nature of the phenomenon itself, looking beyond just physical objects.
Suggesting maybe they weren't conventional craft?
Perhaps. Or that they might be somehow related to or affected by our electromagnetic signals, or maybe even a manifestation of them. Could human signals be attracting them? Or perhaps be a byproduct of their presence?
That's pretty out there for 1947 thinking.
It really is. It highlights how society, in the absence of conventional explanations, was willing to entertain truly radical scientific concepts, pushing beyond known technology or simple misidentification. This theory suggests an understanding, or at least a guess, that the unexplained might be intertwined with the very fabric of the modern electrically charged world.
A testament to the early, unconventional thinking trying to grasp these sightings.
Definitely.
We've seen some truly remarkable accounts and responses within these FBI files, from incredibly detailed eyewitness reports to wild theories of Spanish origins and atomic bombers, and then the nascent, often deflecting, official responses. It's clear that 1947 wasn't just a year of sightings.
No, it was much more.
It was a year of profound questions and the beginnings of a carefully managed narrative. What is the lasting takeaway from this pivotal period right at the dawn of the modern UFO phenomenon?
I think the overarching takeaway from these 1947 FBI files is multifaceted
Yeah.
and really significant for understanding everything that followed. Firstly, they just underscore the overwhelming variety and compelling detail of the eyewitness accounts.
Yeah, the descriptions were vivid.
Elliptical, egg-shaped, bright silver, just a glare, incredible speeds, weird flight characteristics like no banking. These weren't just vague blips. For the observers, they were distinct, anomalous phenomena that challenged their entire worldview.
Right. And second.
Secondly, these documents highlight the immediate, almost urgent human need for explanation. This led to that fascinating spectrum of theories we talked about.
From the wild atomic bomber to the quick hoax or balloon labels.
Exactly. It illustrates society's struggle to categorize something entirely outside its known frame of reference, filling the void with both ingenuity and sometimes just assumption.
Okay, what else?
Thirdly, we witnessed the nascent governmental response, characterized by both genuine data collection, the radar, the pilot intercepts, the Roswell connection, and a very clear developing policy of centralized information control and public deflection. That referral of inquiries to the Secretary of National Defense is a key indicator.
Managing the narrative from the start.
It points to an early, deliberate decision to do just that, potentially minimizing public speculation or panic, creating that single authoritative voice.
And
Finally, and perhaps most importantly, these files document the distinct shift. It wasn't just isolated sightings anymore. It became a recognized phenomenon that demanded official attention, even if that attention was often shrouded in secrecy or misdirection.
the fact the FBI was collecting these reports at all proves that.
Exactly. The mere fact they were logging and internally discussing these reports, even if to dismiss some, confirms something significant was happening on a national scale that couldn't be ignored.
So putting it all together,
These early documents show us not just what was seen in the skies of 1947, but critically, how quickly the unknown intersected with military intelligence, public imagination, and burgeoning government secrecy. It truly set the stage for decades of fascination, speculation, and the enduring mystery that surrounds UFOs. The seeds of secrecy, as we've explored today, were sown very, very early in this phenomenon's history.
yeah, defining much of what came after. Absolutely. The way these initial events were handled seems to have laid the foundation for so much that followed, from official investigations to the very culture of speculation and secrecy that defines the UFO topic today. Considering these early reactions, that immediate tendency towards centralized control and deflection, even with academic inquiries, what do you, our listener, think was truly at stake for the government in 1947 that necessitated such a response? Was it just fear of panic or something else? And how did those initial responses right at the beginning of this phenomenon shape everything that came after?
Good questions to ponder.
We'll leave you with that thought until our next deep dive.